welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie, and we've got a great show for you today. First topic we're going over is the Braves and their recent roster shakeup, analyzing the moves they made and going over the impact it will have on their team. After that, we'll be going over two segments I'm going to call To Trade or Not to Trade, Mason Miller and Tarek Skubal, if the A's and Tigers should trade those respective players. Then after that, doing some Rookie of the Year predictions, and then going over the 2025 Hall of Fame class and just previewing who's available to go into the Hall of Fame and if I think they should. But before we do all that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure this question does get read in the air, please use the link at gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get into the show for today. All right, so of course the first topic I am going to be talking about here is going to be the Braves and their recent roster shakeup. They made a few notable roster moves that I did want to talk about, so let's get over that. So, first off, it was announced over the weekend that Ozzie Albies would be placed on the 10-day IL with a left wrist fracture, which will cause him to be out for 8 weeks, which is obviously a significant blow. I mean, 8 weeks is a significant amount of time. I mean, that's 2 months. That's also, I'm pretty sure that's not even factoring rehab and all that. So, it doesn't seem like Albies will be back anytime soon, and I think it is a question at this point if he is going to be back until the playoffs. Obviously, we're assuming the Braves will make it. I would be shocked if they don't, so obviously, I'm assuming that he is going to be a factor there. But 8 weeks is a significant amount of time, especially for this Braves team that has already had so many injuries. Spencer Strider, Ronald Acuna Jr., both were out at the start of the year for the rest of the year, and now adding into Albies, that really is significant. So, the impact this is going to have on this Braves team is obviously, I'd say, pretty large. Their offense has already been a little inconsistent this year with just guys simply not performing up to the standards they would like to, including Albies himself, who only sports a 100 WRC+, which, yes, is exactly the average, which is fine, but for a player of Albies' caliber, it's really not what you want. And also, players from an underperforming under offense, and with Acuna out, you have to have guys like this step up and play better, and Albies just simply hasn't. So it is a significant blow, even though he hasn't played, I'd say, the greatest second base this year. He still is a very good defender, leader in that clubhouse, still is a guy with name pedigree, so people know how to pitch to him, pitch around him, all that kind of stuff. So I do think it is a significant blow, and it's not like the Braves have the greatest depth as well. Orlando Arcia is over there to the left of him at shortstop, and he's also had a pretty awful season. I mean, his hitting stats are really something to not be fond of if you're a Braves fan. So losing your second baseman, who again wasn't having the greatest season, but still is, someone who's very consistent at that position, who's very solid, who has a name value, is a significant blow, and is something that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of the season. I mean, a left wrist fracture is something that you also have to deal with, I'd say, when you come back from injury as well. It's something that you're going to have to look at and say, this is something that could linger for the rest of the season. So it is something that the Braves are going to have to monitor with Albies, I'd say, for a little while now as well. So 8 weeks, again, a significant amount of time. We don't know how much the rehab is going to be. He's definitely going to have to go to the minor leagues and rehab it at some point. So it is something that we're really going to have to watch. Now, in light of that move, the Braves did make 2 other roster moves to kind of combat that. So we'll be going over those. So the first one is they called up one of their top hitting prospects, maybe their top hitting prospect, Nacho Alvarez Jr., a 21-year-old shortstop at AAA. Now, Nacho has been someone that I've seen a lot of Braves fans clamoring over the past few weeks to be able to be called up and really help out this team. This is before Albies got hurt as well. I think this is really because of, again, the underperformance that Orlando Arcia has played with this year, and calling up one of your top younger shortstop prospects, you better help out your team, I think would be something very nice, and I think a lot of Braves fans are really, again, hoping for him. And they now get him. Obviously, I don't think this is the circumstance they wanted him under, because obviously Ozzie Albies is hurt. But still, being able to get reinforcements, I'd say, is very good. So Alvarez, again, 21-year-old right-handed shortstop, 5'11", 190. Pretty good frame for a shortstop. I'd say plays a pretty decent shortstop out there. Obviously, he's going to be most likely playing second base at the MLB level, but in the future, I'd say he is going to be the Braves guy at shortstop, assuming everything goes well. So his glove isn't exactly the greatest, but it's also not bad. I'd say he's probably going to be a league average shortstop over there, which is fine. And looking at his AAA stats, I mean, really, this is why you call him up for that bat. He's hitting .336 in AAA, has an on-base percentage of .432, and then an OPS of 1.007, which is obviously incredible. Looking at that as well, I mean, he's played 28 games in AAA, so it's not exactly like it's a little sample size. No, it's a pretty significant amount. And obviously he played in AA before this, but still playing almost 30 games there. being in a significant stride there, I'd say is a pretty good thing and shows a lot of potential for this bat. So calling up Alvarez, I think, is a good idea. I really think that this Braves team, especially now with the Albies injury, needs a little bit of a boost. And calling up one of your younger players who has a lot of potential, fans have been clamoring for, fans have been wanting for a little while now, is a very good idea. It gets some hope within your team. It gets some excitement within the fan base and within the clubhouse as well. Whenever a team calls up a top prospect, a guy who can really help out the team, whether it's a trade or in this case a call-up, fans and players are very excited. It makes them think, okay, they think we're good. They know we're good. They're putting reinforcements in this team, and that's a good thing. So, yeah, Alvarez, 21, is a little young, but Braves have been very successful in eagerly calling up prospects in the past. Called up Vaughn Grissom, called up Michael Harris. Of course, Michael Harris has done pretty well in his MLB career, even though he's up and down. And Vaughn Grissom hasn't done the greatest, but at the same time was able to be traded for Chris Sale, who is now a Cy Young contender. So there is still some good within that. So calling up Alvarez, again, I think is a very good move. I think he should be able to help out a lot within this Braves lineup. Not sure where he'll bat, but again, playing him at second base, I'm sure it'll be a fine way to switch him over. I don't think there's going to be any way for him to really not be great at that position. I think it's going to be a pretty seamless change over there. So I like this move a lot for the Braves. I think Alvarez has a lot of potential within his future, and I think is a very good bat. And also, we have to talk about the obvious here. Having a name like Nacho is awesome. I mean, if he's a very good player, which obviously the Braves and the Braves fans are hoping for, there's so many marketing opportunities with Nacho. I mean, you could have a Nacho Alvarez helmet, like the Nacho helmet you have at games. The local Nacho company, I'm sure, will sponsor him. Like, there's so many great marketing opportunities to have a good player named Nacho on your team. We have to talk about that, right? I mean, we can't ignore that his name's Nacho, which is awesome, by the way. So, yeah. But overall, baseball-wise, I think it's a very good move. I think it provides a little bit of a spark within this Braves lineup that definitely hasn't been as great as you would like it to be this year. And again, Acuna's been out for a little while. There's really no excuses for guys consistently underperform like they have this year. I mean, Sean Murphy, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, guys aren't having horrible seasons, but definitely not playing up to the standards that you would expect from this Braves team. They have some question marks in the outfield because of the Acuna injury. Be interesting to see if they add. So overall, it'll be very, very interesting to end up watching this Braves team, how Nacho does perform, and how he does help this team. Finally, the Braves did end up signing also Whit Merrifield, formerly of the Philadelphia Phillies. Did get DFA'd a few weeks ago from this team after a lackluster performance after signing a one-year deal with this Phillies team. But now, of course, signs with Atlanta from Philadelphia as they need some infield depth, and of course Merrifield can help out with that and is a very good player. Actually, some kind of breaking news here. Just going to talk about it. James Paxton has been DFA'd by the Dodgers. Not really something I was expecting. Didn't really think he would be DFA'd. I think he's had not a horrible season by them, but I think we'll talk about that more in the future. But that's something I just saw, so I wanted to bring up. But anyways, going back to Merrifield, I think Merrifield, even though he has had his shortcomings this year with this Phillies team, didn't play the greatest. I think he provides very, very solid depth with this Braves team. Can play really any position on the field, of course, mainly as a second baseman. So assuming Nacho doesn't play the greatest, you have a good backup contingency plan in the veteran in Merrifield. Braves gotten very good performances out of veterans in the past, and I don't think Merrifield should be any different. And I think he might have a chip on his shoulder now, looking for something to prove after being DFA'd by this Phillies team that in all likelihood is a World Series contender. I think being DFA'd by a team like that does put a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, making it, trying to prove them, especially now going in the division as well, saying, I still got it, I'm still that guy. So it is very interesting to end up seeing. But overall, I think he's a very good depth move. Again, good second base plan. If Nacho fails, can play shortstop as well. Can move Nacho over to shortstop if you finally want to do cutoff Orlando Arcia with how he's played this year. Also, again, can play the outfield. I'm sure can play left, can play center, can play right at high capacity. Is a super utility guy. That's where his value comes from. Can play their base as well. So I think Whit just overall is an above average bench player. Can be a guy that fills in when someone's hurt, when someone needs a day off in the lineup as well. So overall, it's just a very solid move for this Braves team that I think, again, needs to have a little bit of a spark in their lineup. And calling up one of their top prospects in Alvarez, signing Merrifield after the Ozzie Albies injury is a good idea of showing people that we're not giving up. We're going to be able to continue to compete and be a good team this year. So yeah, I like this move a lot, and just going over this Braves team again, I think they're very good. It's just I don't see a way for them to win the NL East. I'd be shocked if they're not the 4 seed in the NL. And yeah, I think that's really what's going to happen with them this year. Going to be the top wild card seed. I don't really think there's a chance for them to win the division with how well the Phillies have been playing with all the injury that they've had. So it'll be very interesting to watch the rest of the year. And yeah, so that is it for our first segment here, talking about the Braves and their roster shakeup. Moving into our second segment, which is going to be talking about Mason Miller of the A's. And this is what I'm going to be calling something. Mason Miller, to trade or to not trade. I'll be explaining more of what that means after the break, so if you want to watch, please stay tuned. And yeah, we'll be seeing you after the break, so thanks and bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link, GSMCpodcast.net. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so our second segment is going to be about the man, Mason Miller, who I've talked a lot about on the show for good reason. One of the big stories of baseball this entire year, has really become, I'd say, a superstar within baseball with how well he's performed. And it's kind of hard to do when you're on a team like the A's, who are a small market team, who are also awful. So, yeah, coming up towards the trade deadline here, there's been a lot of discussion about Mason Miller and, honestly, if the A's should trade him or not. These conversations are just going to come up naturally because of a few reasons. Mason Miller is a very good player, and he's on a horrible team. So whenever that happens, no matter what age you are, no matter what, how many years of control you have, it's just going to happen. It always happens. And you throw a wrench in this as well because Miller's a closer, and closers simply are, reusable. You can get a closer you can get some garbage relief pitcher for cheap, see something in him, and make him a great closer. I mean, a lot of teams have done that. I mean, simply you want to look at the Yankees. Clay Holmes was a throwaway on the Pirates, traded for him for nothing. And now he's a top closer in the league. Evan Phillips of the Dodgers, a Rays throwaway, who is now a top closer in the league for the Dodgers. So there's a lot of ways to get a closer in this league, and because of that, because of relief pitchers and closers as well being so, I guess, reusable. And I'm trying to think of the right word to say. But, in that way, I think it's interesting to look at the situation. Now, I'm going to let you know if I think Mason Miller should or shouldn't be traded, give my thoughts overall, and then also some teams that I think he could work on if I do think he should be traded. Now, first question we have to ask is, do I think the A's should trade Mason Miller? Now, this might be a hot take, and I understand that, but my answer is the A's should trade him tomorrow. Now, let me explain why. So, usually I'm not in favor of this. Usually when there's a great young player on a bad team who's in trade conversations like this, I usually say, no. If you're a young team, you want to have someone to build around. You want to be able to have someone you can look at and say, that guy's the face of this franchise, that guy's someone we're going to build around. I don't see a point in trading him. The reason this is different with Mason Miller, in my opinion, is simply because he's a closing pitcher. Again, closing pitchers and relief pitchers are very volatile. They can be great one year, horrible one year. I mean, just look at Edwin Diaz. Look at how he's performing this year. Granted, he has been much better, but still, you look at his career arc as well. I mean, he's a prime example of this. Josh Hader, who signed a big contract with the Astros and, frankly, has been a pretty big disaster. So, I think when you have closing pitchers, you have to look at it that way. They are very good. I think Mason Miller, to be honest, is going to stay being very good. But at the same time, it's just, if you're an A's fan, if you're an organization, if you're looking at the A's organization, Mason Miller, while he's a great player, simply put, throws one inning. And he doesn't even throw one inning every day. He throws it only when the A's are in a close game or winning. And that's not even every day. So he throws maybe one inning 60 days a year. And that's kind of it. So the thing is, if a team's offering you a top 100 prospect or even multiple, how are you going to say no when Miller has 5 years control left and you're probably not going to be good for 3 to 4 years? By the time you're good, you're going to either have to pay Mason Miller or he's going to leave because you are as cheap as you are. This would be different if you would be able to extend him. But the fact is, you're probably not going to be competitive for at least 2 or 3 years. I'd probably even argue 4 or 5 with the way your organization's looking right now. So it doesn't make any sense, because if you hold on to him, you're probably only going to get 1 year of him being the closer for a good A's team, and then he's going to leave. And I don't even know if I'd pay him, to be honest, because he is a closer. Yes, he has electric stuff. He has a ton of potential. He could even potentially move back to starting pitcher. I just don't know how likely that is. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to be able to keep Mason Miller. Like, let's go over an example, all right? The Orioles. The Orioles have been connected a lot to Mason Miller for good reason. They need bullpen help. They have a ton of prospects, and Miller is young and good. So, let's say the Orioles, let's go to the Orioles farm system, for example, okay? They have a lot of good players. Now, let's say they don't offer any top 100 prospects, because they have a lot of good top 100 prospects, but they aren't exactly, they're too high, I'd say, for Mason Miller. And you're not going to trade Basallo or Mayo or especially Holiday for Mason Miller. But let's say they offer someone like Enrique Bradfield, Connor Norby, and Dylan Beavers. Let's say they offer 2 out of those 3. Throw in a major league player who is good but doesn't have a spot in their team. Are you going to say no to that for a closing pitcher? Let's say you go to the Dodgers, okay? Dodgers are a team that have also been connected very heavily to Mason Miller. They need relief pitching. They need relief help always. And Mason Miller is a star, and the Dodgers like collecting stars. It makes a lot of sense, I'd say. So, let's say they offer Dalton Rushing, top catching prospect, 23 years old, 47th top prospect on the MLB.com list. Has great stats here at AA. Can be up, I'd say, maybe at the end of this year if you really want to push him. If not, starting catcher next year. And if you're saying, we have enough depth to catcher with guys like Shane Langoliers, you can move him to first base, move him somewhere else. Just you get his bat. Let's say they offer him, or let's say they offer Josue De Paula, a 19-year-old outfielder who has a great lefty swing, is an A+ ball, can be up in the later part of 2025, top part of 2026. You get to control him until, let's say he's up at 2026 to 2032, 2033. You're going to say no to getting a top prospect like that with the years control he has, who's coming up right when you'll be competitive, for a guy who throws 1 inning. Now, again, I'm not trying to discredit Mason Miller's value or his abilities. I think he's very, very good. But the fact is, you look at this A's team, you look at how far off they are, you look at just what position Mason Miller is at, it's a question you have to answer. And I just don't think I don't think if a team offers you a really good prospect, 1 or 2, maybe even 3, you can say no to that. There's a lot of teams I think would really fit with Mason Miller. Not a lot that would get it done with prospects, but at the same time, if I'm the A's, I'm taking advantage of Mason Miller, getting some prospects here to help out with his future. I mean, maybe the Phillies want to trade for him. There's been some rumors that they aren't happy with the job Jose Alvarado is doing at closer, so maybe they want to trade for him. Maybe they offer, Justin Crawford, Starlin Caba, Mick Abel, top prospects. Maybe they offer, 2. Maybe they offer, 1 and some other guys. How do you say no to a top 100 prospect for that? A guy you really like. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. I don't think that the A's will say no. Well, no, scratch that. I think the A's will say no because I don't think they're run very well, but I wouldn't. I think Mason Miller is a great, great closer. But the fact is, he's at a very high injury risk because of the way he throws. He's a closing pitcher. He only throws 1 inning per game. And by the time you guys are competitive, you'll probably have to trade him because you can't pay him. because that's what your organization looks like. So if I'm the A's, I'm taking advantage of Mason Miller's value. I'm trading him at his highest value, which is now his value will never be higher, and I'm getting what I can for him. And I'm getting a full out bidding war and getting the top prospects I can. So if I'm the A's, that's what I'm doing, and very much hoping that a team will give me a bunch of prospects for him, and we really help out with this future. Now, the A's, as much as I don't think they have a great future, I still think there are some players here. I think J.P. Sears and Ken Waldichuk have some potential there at the top of your rotation. Again, I think Shea Langelier is a nice bat for the future. I think Jacob Wilson, one of your top prospects, who you just called up, 6th overall pick from last year, is a very good top prospect for this organization that I think can show a lot of potential being a future shortstop for you guys. I think Nick Kurtz, as much as I didn't like that selection at 4th overall, I think will be a very good first baseman for you in the future. And adding in some young hitting talent or young pitching talent, whatever you want, will very much help you out. And you have to be able to look at this without emotion and say, you know what, as much as Mason Miller is a great A, he's a great pitcher, we'll be able to sell tickets in Sacramento next year, maybe in Vegas down the line, his timeline doesn't match up with where we are. And because of the position he plays, it doesn't make a lot of sense to hold on to him. And I think that's what the A's have to decide, and I think that's what they should do. If you don't trade him now, trade him in the offseason. His value will never be higher than this trade deadline and the offseason as well. That's what I'm doing if I'm the A's, and that's what I think they should do. Will they do it? I'm not exactly sure, because I don't think, again, they're very well run. But at the same time, I think that's the situation you find yourselves in as the A's organization because of the timeline and because of Mason Miller's control and all that. So that is what I wanted to talk about here with Mason Miller, to trade or to not trade. And I wanted to say I'm trading him tomorrow, getting what I can, and I'm shipping him out because I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to speed run this rebuild and get some good prospects for him. So we go into our third segment, which is basically the same exact thing, but with a different player, Tarek Skubal. To trade or to not to trade? It's the same thing. A very good player on a very bad team that has had a lot of trade rumors connected to him. And a lot of people are saying they should trade him, they shouldn't, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we talk about that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment. But again, before we do that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get our number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that each question does get read in the air, please use the link, gsmcpodcast.net. Really does help the show. Really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so, there we go. Third segment we are going to talk about is kind of a continuation of the second segment. It's a different player, but it's kind of the same thing. I did a to trade or to not trade segment with Mason Miller last time, and now I'm going to be talking about it with Tarek Skubal, the ace of the Detroit Tigers. So let's get into it. There's been a lot of trade rumors about Tarek Skubal, if the Tigers should trade him, if they will trade him, what the prospect capital could be like, and I just want to talk about it. So the interesting thing with Skubal is he is a Cy Young frontrunner. I would be very confident saying that I think as of right now, Skubal is the Cy Young frontrunner in the American League. I would say it's him and Corbin Burns really in kind of a class of their own, but I would still put Skubal above Corbin Burns. But overall, Skubal is a Cy Young frontrunner who has been connected a lot in trade rumors, which is very, very interesting to me. So I did just want to talk about it and just go over, should the Tigers trade him or not? What are the benefits to both sides? So, first of all, the question should be asked, Should the Tigers trade Tarik Skubal? Yes or no? Before, when I talked about Mason Miller, which was the last segment, I'm sure it's on the channel if you're watching this on YouTube later tonight, I said the A's should trade Mason Miller. Now, my answer to should the Tigers trade Tarik Skubal, I don't know. And that's an honest answer. I think basically what the Tigers should do is listen to offers, but do everything you can not to trade him. I've talked about my love for Tarik Skubal on this show before, and I'm going to continue talking about it. Here's what I'll say. Here, I'm going to put it as bluntly as I possibly can. I think Tarik Skubal is a generational type pitcher who can be an ace of a team for the next 15 years and can be a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's how highly I think of Tarik Skubal. That's how highly I think of his stuff. His changeup is out of this world. His fastball is great. His other pitches as well are pretty fantastic for third type pitches, for secondary type pitches. And if I'm the Tigers, I'm going to need a lot to get him to pry him away from me. Now, usually there would be a 0% chance I would say that a team should trade a pitcher like this. But the situation the Tigers find themselves in right now with their franchise is an interesting one to talk about. Right now, they are in a crisis with their hitting. A crisis. They have maybe one good hitter for the future, which is Riley Green. Now, going into this year, they were expecting a few good hitters for the future. Spencer Torkelson, who was the first overall pick a few years ago. Parker Meadows, a top prospect. Colt Keith, a top prospect who they gave an extension. Now, let me tell you where those three guys are. Spencer Torkelson is in AAA, not doing too hot. Colt Keith is not having the greatest season. And Parker Meadows is also in AAA. All three have really not done well this year. And the fact is, you do not have many good hitters for the future. You have Riley Green, who I think is fantastic, and it can be a great, great superstar type hitter for this Tigers team in the future. Was an all-star this year, very well deserved. The problem is, other than him, you have nothing. How confident at this point are you in that Parker Meadows will become an above-average MLB player? Spencer Torkelson will start hitting. I'm actually pretty confident in Colt Keith, though. I think he's been better this second half. I think that there is still a world where Colt Keith can become a very good player, and he's only 1 year within his contract, so I do think that Colt Keith could be a pretty good player. So let's say you have two guys there. Two guys that you can look at for the future in Colt Keith and Riley Green and say, hey, you know what? They're going to be part of our lineup for a long time. And the problem is you don't have anyone else. I'm just not that confident in Parker Meadows and Spencer Torkelson for the future. So now, as much as I love Tarik Skubal, and as much as I think he's great and fantastic, with where the Tigers are right now, and with the prospect capital they get, it's going to be interesting. Now, two teams have been really connected to them, the Orioles and the Dodgers. Now, I want to mainly focus on the Orioles. The question for the Tigers becomes, if the Orioles offer you a package that is Jackson Holliday, one of Samuel Basallo and Colby Mayo, and then another prospect, a hitting prospect, let's say Enrique Bradfield Jr., for example, who could be up next year, how do you say no to that? With the offense where it is, you're getting Jackson Holliday, who, yes, has struggled in the major leagues, still has a ton of potential, still is the top prospect in all of baseball. Let's not forget how good he is in the minors. Let's not forget he's not barely even 20. How do you say no to that? You're transforming your lineup. You're going to get Basallo or Mayo, two guys who are going to be franchise hitters types that I think are fantastic. Holliday, a franchise shortstop type, and then you're getting another top hitting prospect like, let's say, one of three of Enrique Bradfield Jr., Connor Norby, and Dylan Beavers. It's very hard to say no for that. And believe me, I don't understand if the Tigers did. It's just a question mark. Can you say no to that? Where your offense looks for the future. Now, your pitching, after trading Skubal, wouldn't be that hot. If they trade Skubal, would they then, instead of trying to trade Jack Flaherty, who is going to be a top trade chip at this deadline, would you instead try to extend him, make him a big part of your rotation for the future, add him in with, of course, Reese Olson, who's become a nice part of your future, Casey Mize, who I still think has some potential, and then Jackson Jobe, who will come up in the future. Do you do that? But the question is now, who's going to be your ace? So, again, I think Skubal is absolutely fantastic. I think he is a generational type pitcher. I predict him to win the Cy Young before the year. That's how highly I think of him. Obviously, I'm assuming I'm going to get that right with how it's going right now. So, the Tigers have a big decision on their hands. Now, it's mainly been the Orioles and the Dodgers, and I think that overall, both teams should be doing everything they can to trade for Skubal. Again, I think so highly of this guy. If the Orioles or Dodgers get any indication that the Tigers are at all listening to offers, that's what I'm blowing up the farm for. If you hold on to farm system players to hopefully be a competitive team, to call them up, and then if you can't call them up, you trade them for a superstar type player. A superstar young type player in Skubal, you're getting 2.5 years of control. And like Basalo, for example, he's blocked by Adley Rutschman. As much as he's a great prospect, where does he fit in for the future? Jackson Holliday, they have a ton of good infield prospects, and I'm sure Holliday will be better than them, but if you trade him, it's not exactly like you're missing a huge dynamic part of your future. Now, we've heard that they really don't want to trade Kobe Mayo, but I'm sure the Tigers don't want to trade Tarek Skubal, so it's not exactly like, you're getting the short end of the stick here. So, and I just want to say now, if the Orioles, can somehow finesse a trade for Tarek Skubal and have a top two of your rotation of Corbin Burns and Tarek Skubal, give them the World Series trophy now. With that offense, that's unbeatable. I'm sorry. If I'm the Orioles, I'm doing everything I can to trade for him. And guess what? The Dodgers, same thing. They've also been connected to him. If you can have a rotation fully healthy of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Clayton Kershaw, Tyler Glasnow, Tarek Skubal, Bobby Miller, Walker Buehler, Emmett Sheehan, even more guys I'm sure I'm forgetting, not James Paxton because they just DFA'd him for some odd reason. That's insane. These two teams have the ability to get him, are contenders, they make sense, and I'm doing everything I can to get him if he is available. Now, thinking about it, I still don't think the Tigers should trade him, but I think they should listen. I just think Skubal is too good to trade, and looking at it towards the future, personally, to be honest, the thing here is now it's easier to develop hitters than pitchers, so you could sign some guys, but overall, it's going to be a very interesting thing to watch out for in the future, and this Tigers team is going to be interesting to see. How are they going to deal with going into next year? Who are they going to get with Jack Flaherty? Where are they going to trade him? I think he makes perfect sense for a lot of teams needing pitching, mainly the Astros and the Dodgers. I'm going to have a show at some point this week and get my full trade deadline predictions. I'm thinking Wednesday or Thursday, but don't hold me on that, so we'll have to see. We talk about him there, of course. So, overall, the Tigers have a very interesting future to look ahead towards. What are they going to do about Jack Flaherty? Are they going to trade Tarek Skubal? Personally, I don't think they will, but if they should, it's an interesting debate. What happens with their offense? What happens with the future of Spencer Torkelson is, I think, an underrated storyline heading into the trade deadline as well. So, very interesting team to watch in the future, and I'm very interested and excited to see what happens with this team. So that is our third segment here, talking about Tarek Skubal and if the Tigers should trade him or not, to trade or to not trade, as I put it, kind of giving a nice little spin on it. Going into our fourth segment here, which is going to be talking about Rookie of the Year and some predictions there. I did Cy Young and MVP on my show on Friday, so I didn't have a chance to do Rookie of the Year. So I did just want to go over that. So yeah, we'll be doing that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
There we go. And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth segment, which is going to be doing some Rookie of the Year predictions for the rest of the year. I did do this on Friday for the Cy Young and MVP, but unfortunately did not have a chance to do the Rookie of the Year. So I did want to pick this up today, and I thought it was fitting. So I'm just going to be going over my American League picks for the Rookie of the Year, and then going over the National League picks I have as well. So we'll be doing all that. And just predicting the Rookie of the Year. So let's get into it. So starting off with the American League, we're doing the top three, of course, as you do in regular voting, and then doing 3 honorable mentions as well. So starting off in the third place spot for the American League Rookie of the Year, I have from the Baltimore Orioles left fielder Colton Cowser. Cowser has had a fantastic season with this Orioles team this year since being called up as a top prospect and has not disappointed whatsoever. Has become a really huge part of this Orioles offense and has become a really nice lefty bat to be able to fit into this Orioles team and offense, and I think he's really been fantastic. Has had a really, really good season with them. I think it's gone pretty underrated this year because of how many good position players the Orioles have. I mean, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, just to name the top 2. So overall, I think Cowser really deserves some credibility for how well he's done this year with the Rookie of the Year and with the Orioles. And yeah, I think he's going to be in the third place position here for this. Second place is the man I just did a full segment on, Mason Miller of the Athletics. Now, Miller's an interesting case because he could be traded to a different league. I mean, talk about him going to the Dodgers, but if he does get traded, I don't really know if it'll be to the National League. But overall, Miller's had an absolutely insane rookie year. One of the greatest relief seasons I've ever seen. Has made the transition from a starting pitcher to a fireballing relief pitcher so effortlessly, so nice, and just, overall has been a fantastic, fantastic player for them. And is really someone I'm looking forward to watching for the rest of the year. Has had a really just incredible, incredible season with this Oakland team, and he'll be someone I'm very much watching for a little while, and especially at the trade deadline as well. Will they end up trading him is something that is going to be very interesting to see to me. And in first place for the American League Rookie of the Year, maybe a surprise, I have from the Texas Rangers, Wyatt Langford. Langford was my preseason selection as well to win the Rookie of the Year, and I'm sticking with that. I think that Langford is going to have a killer second half. Since coming back from injury, he's been really, really good. Has finally gotten used to MLB pitching, I'd say, and has become the designated hitter bat that basically everyone thought he would be when he did come up to the major leagues. I think Langford is a generational type bat. I've talked about this a lot now. I think this is really a guy that can be a 30 to 40 home run perennial type hitter. And I think he's going to have an amazing, amazing second half. Is someone that really is going to add in a lot to this Rangers offense, and already has done much better in this second half. He's going to add in a ton of depth to this Rangers lineup, and as much as they might be sellers at this deadline, I think Langford is going to continue to flourish with this team. He's going to continue to flourish as a bat with this team, and overall, I think he's going to be really, really good, and I'm very excited to watch him for the future. Huge Wyatt Langford fan over here, and I really do think he's going to be absolutely fantastic to look at for the rest of this year. For some honorable mentions, first off, I had maybe the AL Rookie of the Year frontrunner at the start of the year, Luis Gil. Gil had an outstanding first few months with this Yankees team that many people were just giving him the Rookie of the Year award, but kind of came back down to earth a little bit, has had some rough outings with this Yankees team. I still don't think he is a very good pitcher. I still do think he is a very good pitcher with this Yankees team, but overall, I just don't think he's going to live up to the potential that he had with those first few months. I think, again, he's a very good pitcher, a guy who can add in a lot to the Yankees core and the Yankees future, especially in their pitching rotation. I just don't think that he's going to continue to play as he did those first few months. I think that was kind of setting a little bit of a unreasonable standard on himself. So I do have him honorable mention still. I think he's a really good pitcher. Just, don't think he's going to continue to play as well as he did before. Next, I have from the Boston Red Sox, Wilyer Abreu. Abreu has had a fantastic season in the outfield with this Red Sox team. Has really, again, been one of the big reasons why this Red Sox team has been so competitive this year. I mean, really, nobody expected this. I was really trying to find a way to get in this top 3, but I thought these 3 were kind of lock set. If there was going to be a number 4, I would probably have it as Abreu. I think, again, he's really had just a fantastic, fantastic season with this Red Sox team, and I really like the way he's performed with them. Finally, I have another Yankee and the third AL East player of these 3 honorable mentions, Ben Rice. Rice has just been a spark plug to this Yankees lineup since coming up. Had big shoes to fill with Anthony Rizzo, who's been a nice presence there for the last 2 years at first base for the Yankees and has done really, really well. Started off a little rough, but had that 3 home run game and really broke out after that, and he's become a really nice piece of this Yankees lineup. I do think that Rice is going to be an above-average hitter in the MLB for a long time, and I'm really excited about his future and the way that he's going to continue to develop and become a really, really good player for this Yankees team. I think, again, Rice is a very, very good bat to this team and is someone that is very fantastic to watch. And overall, I am very excited to end up seeing what will happen with his future. And I think he's going to be a very, very good hitter for the foreseeable future with this Yankees team, and will end up, having a really good second half that will propel him to being in this Rookie of the Year conversation. Moving to the National League now, going to our top three and then our three honorable mentions. So, first off, in third place, I have from the Chicago Cubs, Shota Imanaga. Imanaga looked like the dead-on front-runner for this Rookie of the Year award at the start of the year. Had one of the greatest starts to a rookie season I've ever seen. There is still some debate as, should a guy who's coming over from the NPB, which is looked at universally as the second highest professional baseball level, be considered a Rookie of the Year, but it is his first year in the MLB, so what are you going to do about it, right? So, yeah, Imanaga had such an outstanding start to the season that it made sense that he was going to fall off a little bit, and, he has done that. He hasn't fallen off an insane amount, not to where he's unpitchable anymore, and, the contract's looking bad, but it is, he's not as good as he once was, but again, that's super hard to be. So overall, I think Imanaga is going to be someone that is very, very interesting to watch for the rest of this year with this Cubs team, how good he is going to do, and I think that, again, he's still going to have a very good second half. He's still going to end up being a very good pitcher. Might have a little pressure taken off once this Cubs team decides to sell and, not continue to try to compete, as are the rumors currently with the way they're in the standings. So overall, be a very interesting decision to, very interesting thing to watch Imanaga for the rest of the year. I think overall he still had a really great season. Second place I have from the San Diego Padres, first-time All-Star Jackson Merrill. Merrill has just been such an outstanding presence in this Padres lineup this year, has made the transition from shortstop to center field to help out this Padres team so effortlessly, has just become such a fantastic bat with this team. Really has been so good, and yeah, it's just been a fantastic piece of this Padres lineup, and yeah, really good rookie season for this team. And a first for the NL Rookie of the Year is, of course, Paul Skeens. What is there to say about Paul Skeens that hasn't been said? I'm not going to spend too much time on him. One of the greatest rookie seasons we've seen already ever. Is a spectacle whenever he pitches. I mean, I don't remember seeing anything like this except when Ohtani would pitch in it for the Angels. So, yeah, just outstanding to watch Skeens this year. Is having one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen, ever at this point. And just, yeah, obviously he's the NL front runner, and is obviously who I'm going to choose to win the NL Rookie of the Year at the end of the year. Some honorable mentions. First off, I think one of the most underrated players in all of baseball from the St. Louis Cardinals, Mason Wynn. I think Wynn has quietly solidified himself as a top shortstop in this league, but nobody's talking about him. Now, the center Rookie of the Year class is really good with Imanaga, Merrill, and Skeens all being viable candidates, but I think Wynn needs to get more love. He's having a great season with the bat, which was his biggest concern going into this year, is continuing his amazing defense there at shortstop. Is really a vacuum out there, has incredible arm strength, and I just think overall, Wynn needs to be talked about more overall in baseball, and I'm surprised he hasn't been. So, yeah, I have him as an honorable mention here. We have his NL Central rival, Joey Ortiz, as another honorable mention. Ortiz has become a great piece of this Brewers lineup since coming over in the Corbin Burns trade, and really helped out this offense. Has played a great third base out there with the glove, and has also become a really good offensive player as well. I think Ortiz has had a really fantastic rookie season, and has been one of the big reasons why this Brewers team has been much better than we really expected. Next, final honorable mention, we have James Wood of the Nationals. I don't think Wood is going to be up for enough time to really be in consideration for a top 3 spot for this National League, but I think that Wood is going to have such a great second half. I'm so high in this guy that he really is going to fight himself into this Rookie of the Year conversation, even with him not playing as many games. So, did want to talk about him here. Also, of course, Yoshinobu Yamamoto would be on this list if he wasn't going to be out for a significant remainder of the year. So, obviously, that is something I did want to mention if you were wondering where he was. But yeah, that is our 4th segment here, talking about my Rookie of the Year predictions. Let me know if you agree, disagree, all that kind of stuff. Going into our 5th and final segment here today, which is going to be talking about the 2025 Hall of Fame class and just the ballot. We did have the 2024 inductees get inducted yesterday and gave all the speeches, so I did want to do a little bit of a segment on the Hall of Fame and just go over it and who I think should get in, the guys here, and yeah, we're going over that, and we'll see you after the break, 4th and final break. So thanks and bye. And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fifth and final segment for today's show, which is going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic, the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame induction ceremony in Cooperstown, New York was yesterday. Superstars that I watched growing up like Joe Mauer, Adrian Beltre got in, as well as Jim Leland also got in. So, that was all very exciting. Very deserved, I'd say. Adrian Beltre, I think, is a top 5 third baseman of all time. Absolutely should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Was the correct choice to get in there first ballot, and is also one of the most beloved players of all time. I mean, he's had such funny moments within baseball, was such a great ambassador for the game. I really did wish he'd win more in his career, but very happy for him to get in the Hall of Fame, but we are getting sidetracked a little bit here. So, it is now talk about the 2025 ballot. I didn't get a chance to talk about the 2024 ballot, and just, because that induction ceremony happened before I was on the show, I believe. So I did want to just talk about 2025 and go over some of the notable players on the ballot and if I think they should get in, what I think their cases are, and just going over that. So let's get into it. So first off, we of course have Felix Hernandez from the Seattle Mariners. Hernandez is an interesting one because he had one of the best peaks, I'd say, of any baseball pitcher ever, but he never won. He barely ever made the playoffs. I don't even know if he did make the playoffs with this Mariners team, which, yes, it isn't his fault, but that's going to matter to voters. And it's also his peak wasn't that high. I mean, it was, maybe 10 years or so. At the end, it really got bad. I'd say starting in 2017, it really got bad from the years of, though, I would say 2009 to 2015, he was maybe the best pitcher in all of baseball. And other than that, he was solid outside of those last few years, but still wasn't outstanding. So Hernandez is a very interesting one. Now, unfortunately for Felix, I lean towards the no part of it. I think, again, his peak was absolutely outstanding, but just the way that he could have pitched a longer career, never really won, and, didn't have the greatest end to his career, and his peak was kind of short. I think that it is kind of a no for me. I love Felix, a great player of this game. Again, was buddies with Adrian Beltre, so of course always had a great time there with them. But I think that if there was a Hall of Very Good, Hernandez would get in, and that's where I would put him in. But overall, I think that he does get in, honestly, at some point. 10 tries a lot. People grew up watching him, the new voters, so I'm sure that'll factor in. And again, he was liked by voters, and whether we want to admit it or not, being liked by the BBWAA does mean a lot for your status. So I think he does end up getting in. I don't think he is a Hall of Famer, but I also don't think it's a travesty if he does get in. I think it's very borderline for me, and I could really convince either way. Next, we have Ian Kinsler, who of course was one of the best second basemen in all of baseball during his time. Kinsler, to me, is going to be a no. I don't really think that Kinsler is a Hall of Famer. I really don't think that he should be in this conversation whatsoever. I think Kinsler was a really good player throughout his career, but I don't think he came anywhere ever close to being a Hall of Famer. The highest OPS plus he ever had in his career was 2008 with 134, and that was his peak. He had some really rough seasons at the end, and I don't think he had an outstanding peak. I really think he had some good seasons here and there, and he played really good defense, second base as well, but I don't think Kinsler's a Hall of Famer. I don't really know why he's in this conversation, to be perfectly honest, as much as I like him. And I don't think that he is a Hall of Famer. Sorry, Kinsler. I know I'm kind of being mean there, but I think overall that's kind of what we have to look at here for the Hall of Fame and just talking about it. I think too many people get in nowadays, and I think we kind of have to step out of that. Next, we have another one that is very interesting, Dustin Pedroia of the Boston Red Sox. Pedroia, honestly, I'm going to go with a yes. I think his peak wasn't very high, but I think it was great. I mean, he won an MVP within his career, within his fourth year in the league, had a really outstanding year, was great, played a great second base for this Red Sox team, and is a two-time World Series champion, Silver Slugger, Gold Glover, one of the best defenders we've seen at second base in a long time, is an MVP. And I think this is a guy who maybe gets in on the 9th or 10th portion of the ballot, but I still think should get in. I think the way his peak was, how important he was to those winning Red Sox teams, I think winning matters, I think was very important. And just overall, I think that Pedroia should be a Hall of Famer, but also I don't think it's a yes or no definitively. I think that you could argue yes, you could argue no, but I do think he is. Next two, First off, CC Sabathia. This is an easy yes to me. I think Sabathia is one of the greatest left-handed pitchers to ever play this game. Was great with Cleveland, was one of the best deadline trades ever with Milwaukee, was outstanding with the Yankees throughout his career, was consistently good as well. I mean, pitched till he was 38 and really never had that down of a season, even when he was injured. I think that overall, Sabathia is definitely a Hall of Famer. He's a Cy Young Award winner, won a World Series with that Yankees team. Overall, just had a great, consistent career, and I think that Sabathia should be a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest left-handed pitchers ever, and 100% should be in the Hall of Fame. I assume he'll go in as a Yankee, but it would be interesting to see if it's a Yankee or a Guardian. I assume it's a Yankee, but yeah, obviously, I do think Sabathia should be a Hall of Famer. Ichiro's next, obviously. I mean, who is saying no to Ichiro? Who is going to say Ichiro is not a Hall of Famer, right? Like, he's one of the most beloved players of all time. He's one of the greatest players of all time, factoring in international status as well. If you don't think Ichiro's a Hall of Famer, never watch baseball again. I'm sorry. I don't understand how you could think Ichiro's not a Hall of Famer. It's Ichiro. Like, no need to go into the stats or deep dive here. It's Ichiro. He's a Hall of Famer. Next, we have Carlos Beltran. Beltran, to me, is a no-doubt Hall of Famer. You look at Beltran's stats, you'll be surprised at how good he was in his career. Maybe I'm biased, I'm a Mets fan, and he played the majority of career with the Mets, and I do think he'd go in the Hall of Fame as a Met, but he was an outstanding player. I think Beltran is easily a Hall of Famer. He's maybe the greatest position player in the history of the Mets organization. And yeah, I think is easily a Hall of Famer. He did not go in first ballot, I think, because of his involvement in the Astros cheating scandal, which I think is fine. Strip him of the title of being a first ballot Hall of Famer, but still put him in. I think that's even though I don't think that this cheating scandal was as big of a deal as some people make it out to be, I do think that's a fair punishment, but I think he should get in, and I think he should be a Hall of Famer. Andruw Jones is next. I think he's also a Hall of Famer. Was a great hitter, was maybe the greatest defensive center fielder we've ever seen. I think Jones should 100% be in a Hall of Famer, and I think he 100% should get in this list. Now, I want to bunch the next two guys here on this, which is going to be Manny Ramirez and Alex Rodriguez. Of course, what do these two guys have in common? Steroid users. Now, the thing about them is they were some of the greatest hitters we've ever seen in the game of baseball. Yes, they used steroids, but they also had dingers. They had a lot of dingers. They had a lot of tanks. And that's really fun. And the question is, I think really for steroid users, it is once one of them gets in, they'll all get in. So once one of the steroid users get in, I think they'll all get in. And I do expect at some point one of them is going to get in. Whether it's Manny, whether it's A-Rod, it'll be interesting to see. And, I mean, you've already seen some guys who took steroids but are likable, so they haven't talked about it. I mean, David Ortiz tested positive for steroids. That's never talked about. So did Andy Pettitte. Everyone knows Pudge Rodriguez used steroids, even though he was never caught. I mean, come on. I think one of Ramirez and A-Rod get in, because obviously just looking at the stats, they're Hall of Famers, but obviously you have to factor in the steroid usage. So I think that once one of these guys get in, you'll start seeing Sammy Sosa get in. You'll start seeing Barry Bonds especially get in. And it'll be interesting to see, but I do think one of them gets in at some point. And yeah. Next we have Chase Utley of the Phillies. I don't think Chase Utley is at all a Hall of Famer. Maybe I'm biased, I'm a Mets fan, and obviously Mets fans don't really like Chase Utley, but again, Chase Utley, very good player, not a Hall of Famer. I don't know why we're having these very good players, but not all-time great. I feel like we're forgetting what the point of the Hall of Fame is. These are not all-time great players. Chase Utley is not an all-time great player. Ian Kinsler is not an all-time great player. These are not Hall of Fame type guys. As much as they're good players, they're just not Hall of Famers. So I think we're forgetting the whole use of the Hall of Fame here, but whatever. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, and that's kind of it. Billy Wagner, yes. The fact that Billy Wagner is not in the Hall of Fame is an absolute disgrace to Major League Baseball and every single voter. One of the greatest relief pitchers of all time, a lockdown closer with the Phillies, the Astros, and the Mets. I don't understand what the argument is to keeping Billy Wagner out of this Hall of Fame. Has some of the greatest counting stats ever. Is very high up there in ERA. Very high up there in save numbers as well. I don't understand why he's not in the Hall of Fame at this point. The fact that he isn't, to me, is an embarrassment, and people should be ashamed of themselves. One of the greatest relief pitchers ever, and should 100,000% be a Hall of Famer. And again, the fact that he isn't, to me, is disgusting, and the fact, I just don't understand why Billy Wagner's not a Hall of Famer. Just crazy to me, but it's been something I've thought for many years, even before I was on this podcast as well. So I think that Wagner is 100% a Hall of Famer, and should be inducted in the Hall of Fame tomorrow. So that is my fifth and final segment here, going over the 2025 Hall of Fame class, kind of previewing it and going over it. So yeah, that is my show for today, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe with the notification bell to not only get notified when I upload, but all the other great content creators on this channel do. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. I'm your host, Sam Menzie. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see what baseball throws at us tomorrow. And yeah, we'll be seeing you then. So thank you so much, and bye. See you then.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't